You're listening to Answers from the Akashic Records, a world of empowerment service from Aingeal Rose Ahonu.
You are very welcome. I am Ahonu, and on behalf of Aingeal Rose, I want to welcome you to this session of Answers from the Akashic Records. This is the final part in a four-part discussion, the first of which was called Have You Got an Unconscious Death Urge? The second in this series was called Are We Facing a Food Shortage? The third is Evil on Its Way Out? And this session is called Are You a Divine Manifestation? In this series, we asked a lot of questions, like, for example, will there be any major developments in the area of climate change? What is the significance of the August 21st solar eclipse? How will the dying off of bees affect us in the future? What is the Fibonacci spiral? How do we undo the unconscious death urge? Will Western medicine incorporate more holistic practices in the future? Will there be a shortage of food and water in the future? Will we see flying cars in our lifetimes? Should we be concerned about North Korea? What is the best way to tap into our subconscious mind? How do we keep that potent part of our consciousness awake at all times? Is evil on its way out? Is there some way we can plug into people to share info to bring about heaven on earth? How do we merge realities? And how do we affect each other? And how do the master teachers of the past affect us in the present? And in this session, the question was asked, can you expand on manifesting the crystal spiral geometry and help us get out of the way and become more of the divine manifestation in the present moment?
To not be repetitive, but the same answer. It's all belief. It's all belief. It's all what you believe. That's the answer. You could shift your geometry in a second if you believed you could. If there wasn't a part of you that was denying yourself. So what's the unconscious message in there? The death urge message is what makes you deny that amount of ability and power? Your mind may know it's there, but what part of you, and you don't need to answer me, but what part of you says, no, it's hard, or I can't do it, or why won't it work? That's all unconscious death urge beliefs that we'd be exploring. What is that? What are you telling yourself? Because the truth is, it's just beliefs. It's just an idea in your consciousness that stuff's impossible or that it takes time. And I'm there with you, believe me. Every one of us is there. But the more we can realize that it's just as easy as declaring it because you will it to be. Believing it 100%. But this is what happens. People's self-worth stuff gets in there, gets in the way. People's, can I really do this? And all of the fear about, well, what if I'm wrong? And then there's the wrath of God that comes in there and, oh my God. But I mean, it's those sorts of beliefs that are subconsciously in there. What do you mean? You could have past lives where you're just a lowly peon. I remember I asked Source one day about I think we were quantum jumping. That's what it was. And I wanted to jump to a self that was financially successful, but where I went, I got dropped down into this vat of cheese. Okay. And I was in India and I was in the lower caste. I was a woman who was a lower caste and my job was make cheese. I had made a big vat of cheese and I wasn't allowed higher knowledge. If you were in that low caste, you did not have permission to have higher knowledge. Okay. And higher station. So I'm like, oh my God.
And you believed it?
Well, I saw it. Well, after you see it, you can say, well, that might have been then, but it isn't now. So you could redirect your mind that way. But it's the same thing with genetics, because it is true. Okay, you inherit emotional things from your parents, you inherit patterns, but they've proven that the DNA changes instantly when somebody projects a different emotion into it. It unwinds, it changes itself. So DNA is not a set thing. That can be altered too. by different emotional states. Science has proven it. It happens. So genetics is just a template, but it's not an absolute. And that's what we're doing in the chakra classes. We're going through and we're remapping the whole thing. Belief, 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 belief. If you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. And you know, what you would hear from sources, anything's possible. There aren't any limits. There's no boundaries. There's no absolute law of physics. I mean, you see that in science, where every 5 or 10 years they come up with a different law of physics. And now Einstein he's out the window. Newton's out the window. They're all out the window because they keep discovering new realities. There's no absolute, you see. And we had a discussion one time in these things about time and you know, how time was a construct of our minds, just like gravity is. Gravity is collective karma. That's all it is. So you can understand, as we get lighter in our consciousness and we stop judging and that forgiveness takes its place, this is why gravity starts to dissolve. People start manifesting faster and faster, right? Because we're not held in by the stuff that's unhealed. And I perceive that a master is somebody who knows all this, who doesn't say yes to all these limiting thoughts. They don't say yes. They go, well, that might not be appropriate for me. I may not want to agree with that, so I'm not going to. I don't care what anybody says. I had a woman comment on that time thing we did when somebody asked the question, is time the same in other dimensions? And Source came back and said, no. So she came back and she said, oh, no, it's an absolute law that time is throughout the whole universe. And so I thought to myself, well, if you want to believe that, you can believe it. But that's really, and that's a lot of times when I've gone through stuff and that's what Source comes back, well, really? Is that what you want to use your powerful mind for? You want to, really? You want to use it for that? Okay, well, you can. Nobody's going to say no to you. I think it's all, when we talk about impossibilities, right? It's all because the collective believes in the limitations, but you don't have to. And the more you can say no to that and say, well, that's not what I want it to be true for me. Okay. And the more you can do that and understand you have a right to it, there's no guilt in it. See, all those things are what starts to come up, you see, when you start manifesting quickly and you go, oh, really? Then there's the guilt. Well, did you earn that? Who did you pay for that? All that kind of stuff starts to come up, bubble up from the collective subconscious. And now you got it flat as a pancake again. So that's why I'm saying there is some re-choosing in that when you realize you can say no. There are no rules like that. God's source is free. It's love. It's want your happiness. God's will for you is perfect happiness and nothing else. Anything that tells you otherwise is a death urge thought. Let me just say this too while I'm thinking of it. You get to a point where, like, I notice that if I have a negative thought about somebody now, I immediately don't feel good. I get sick. Yeah. And I think it's sending you the point that that's what sickness is. It's either self-judgment or judging somebody else or, you know. But it's becoming more and more obvious now, immediate, actually.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our session today. And as is traditional with us, I'm going to read a summary of what we've covered. These profound statements are in fact a summary of the last 4 sessions together, including, have you got an unconscious death urge? Are we facing a food shortage? Is evil on its way out? And are you a divine manifestation? Major climate change reversal will happen, but not without some suffering at first. More inventions designed to clean the oceans and our environment will help restore the balance of nature over time. Methane gas under the ocean floor is potentially explosive for this planet. We can mitigate much climate change with our own consciousness. We must re-nurture our soil. This is our part in helping Mother Nature. All solar eclipses are normal rotational experiences in the cosmic cycles. Many beehives are thriving because of the inner knowledge of their beekeepers. Pesticides and fungicides are killing bees, but we will not lose them to extinction. Humanity is capable of resolving all problems. The unconscious death urge is in every cell of our bodies. The Fibonacci spiral is a death spiral and is not natural to God's source. Negative thoughts weaken us. Pure love thoughts strengthen us. The higher the frequency, the more loving it gets. The advantage that yogis have is their isolation from negative projections. We are up against the mass consciousness that believes in death. The gifts of God are free. All our beliefs and our illnesses are coded to the unconscious death urge. The more we see the death urges, the more it discharges it. Nobody will undo the unconscious death urge for you, because this would remove your godness, your self-mastery. Western medicine will incorporate more holistic practices over time. Now that governments see that money can be made from marijuana, there is a lot more investment in this area of herbal medicine. We will see flying cars in our lifetime, but it will take some time to govern the aviation and safety aspects of the new technology. We've had technology for ET travel since the 1940s, and we will see more of this incorporated into commercial airlines in the near future. North Korea is like a rebellious child that will continue to push the boundaries. Much energy is being directed towards causing another world war. The reptilian energy is behind the move towards a World War III. Black magic has been used in the control of populations since forever. Wars and bloodshed feed the reptilian agenda. Nuclear radiation is not bad in and of itself. It just operates at a frequency that we can't integrate into our bodies. Willingness is the great entrance into exploring the unconscious mind. Babaji, Jesus, and other masters are always available to help when asked. Feeling, accepting, acknowledging, and forgiving our issues all help unravel them. Babaji was Jesus' teacher. Our next prayer is to integrate forgiveness. Everything in a dream is an aspect of you. This is also true of the symbolism seen in meditation. Saying there is only one God can help dispel evil and paralyzing fear. Become more and more of the all that is part of making choices for love and forgiveness in every moment. If the lower body has not integrated higher consciousness seen from using hallucinogens, you can inadvertently crash your body template. We manifest and undo all levels of reality. Being God-realized has to be an actuality. You can't approach God-realization from believing we are in a prison planet. Evil is leaving, but it requires the mass consciousness of the world to dissolve it. As more people decide, this is not the kind of world I want to live in, only then will we see the new world of Paradise Earth emerge. Exposure and disclosure is part of the awakening. Good food is an integral part of the question, how well do you love yourself? Becoming conscious requires us to recognize when enough is enough. It is not evil's destiny to continue on earth. The fact that you are here now means you did choose it. We all affect each other with the quality of ourselves. Masters show us our potential. The more people wake up, the more we bridge the gap between the perception of differences, polarities, and realities. God Source says, "Do you really think I love another less than I love you?" A strong aura emits a protective shield. You can shift your geometry in an instant if you knew what part of you doesn't believe it. Self-worth and guilt and fear prevents us from manifesting our divine selves in this moment. DNA can be altered through altering our emotional state. There are no absolute laws of physics. Time and gravity are constructs of our minds. Gravity is collective karma. A master does not say yes to limiting thoughts. When we talk about impossibilities, it is because the collective perceives those limitations. God's will for you is perfect happiness. Anything else is a death-urged thought. So we thank you for being with us today. Brings us to the end of our session, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to Answers from the Akashic Records, a world of empowerment service from Aingeal Rose Ahonu. To get the profound statements from the Akashic Records in your mailbox each week, log on to worldofempowerment.com.